The Flash is the new film in the DC cinematic universe, and it could be the last. I have no idea when this reset is supposed to start. Barry Allen uses his super speed to change the past, but his attempt to save his family creates a world without superheroes, forcing him to race for his life in order to save the future. The DC cinematic universe has been a mess, and that is why they are resetting it and bringing James Gunn aboard, but they have all these other projects that they still need to release because they invested millions of dollars into these movies and they can't just throw them away. And specifically with the Flash movie, I mean, this movie has been in production since like 2005. They've been firing directors, writers, they've been getting new actors involved, producers. They can't seem to get this film made. They can't seem to get people that want to be on this production. It seems like the studio and the creative minds behind this film were just butting heads. And then there are other outside factors that are going to derail this production. It seemed like we were never going to get a Flash movie, but we finally did. And how was the film? I think this is a big lesson to not take some of the initial reactions when people see films like this months before they're supposed to be released to heart, because those reactions were saying that this is the best comic book movie ever made, or at least one of them. This movie is going to blow your mind. It is an achievement in cinema. It's spectacular. It's all these things. And this film is just okay. And honestly, I know that buzz like that is a good thing for your film because people are going to go see it. But I do think it could hurt the film because if expectations are so high, no matter what, people are going to be disappointed. And I'm here to tell you to pump your brakes on your expectations for this film because it's just fine. I don't think it's gonna change your life or anything. I will say if you're a giant DC fan, there are a bunch of things in this film that are gonna get you really excited and really enjoy this movie, but this film does have a lot of problems. I'll first talk about the things I enjoyed. I like the style of this film. It felt a little bit different from some of the DC Cinematic Universe films we've gotten. The director of this film also directed It and It Chapter 2. And right when the movie starts, you could tell that there's a different type of style to this film. It's a little bit more upbeat and fast than some of the other DC Cinematic Universe films that we've gotten. And some of the sequences are upbeat and really fast. And it's a lot of fun. That honestly surprised me because the vibe from the trailer, I thought this film would be way more intense. It is actually a lot more lighthearted than I thought it was going to be. And that's actually a compliment for the film because there are a lot of fun sequences in this film. I actually thought it was pretty funny. And I thought all the performances were done really well. We'll talk about the elephant in the room with Ezra Miller. He does a good job. He has to play two versions of himself. He does a good job. I'll leave it at that. Do I think someone else could have done this role? Absolutely. It's not like his performance was like the only thing he could ever accomplish. I think other people could have played this role for sure, but I thought Ezra Miller did a good job. It was nice to see Michael Keaton back as Batman. I won't lie, I haven't seen the Tim Burton Batmans in probably over a decade. It's been a long time, but it was fun to see him back as Batman again. There are a lot of scenes in here where he has to use his old technology because he's coming out of retirement basically. And I just thought him using like the old technology, it's not really working. It's honestly hindering some of their success. I thought it was pretty funny. Sasha Calle's Supergirl was badass. She had some really great moments in the film. I like Supergirl in the film in general. I thought she was fun. And overall, I think there is an emotional story here, like an emotional lesson that Barry is learning that I thought was effective in certain moments throughout the film. And you do feel the overall threat and goal throughout the film with this lesson that Barry's trying to learn and what he's trying to do for his family. And I really appreciated those moments. But the problem is a lot of those moments are overshadowed by the film's attempt to bring in certain nostalgic factors that are going to give people really excited and be like, holy shit, I remember that. Like, I think there's something special here with the overall story, but I think like the little details that they decide to do to throw in here come off as somewhat frustrating. Because throughout the film, there's something going on with older Barry and younger Barry. It's not a spoiler, it's in the trailer. That I thought was really unique and fun. And then when we start throwing in all the nostalgic elements throughout the film, that's when it starts getting less interesting. It almost feels like we're just doing this giant love letter to DC, which sometimes I can appreciate if it's done really well. This film's about time travel, it's about multiverses, and there are some elements that are different from other time travel multiverse movies we've seen that I can appreciate that. But there are so many times where the movie gets very confused with itself and becomes very jumbled, and you honestly don't understand what a lot of things are happening towards the end of the film. And yes, unfortunately, there's going to be some comparisons of this film to Across the Spider-Verse because there are a lot of similarities. I can only imagine some Warner Brothers exec was like, oh, we're going to release The Flash 2 weeks after Across the Spider-Verse. Let's hope that Across the Spider-Verse is a bad movie. And then he didn't expect Across the Spider-Verse to be one of the best comic book movies ever, one of the best sequels of all time. And now people are just going to compare The Flash to Across the Spider-Verse, and like Across the Spider-Verse is just like 40 times better than The Flash. They're probably sitting around a boardroom like, well, shit. But I will say, like I said before, there are some elements and gimmicks and all of that with the multiverse and time travel stuff in here that were somewhat unique and a little bit different than what we've seen before in movies like this. Unfortunately, though, the CGI here does not look great. I don't know if it was because there was a lot of production issues, or maybe it's just like the new style of what they're trying to do with this film, but the CGI here does not look great. I know people were kind of talking about in the trailer, saying like, oh, it's going to look better in the movie. Well, it never really does. It never really works out that way, and the CGI here does become distracting sometimes. I guess even without some of these expectations with this film, I was disappointed, a little frustrated, because like I was saying before, there are elements here where I think there could have been a really great story that Barry is trying to overcome this adversity and grow as a person, and there are parts of that in here for sure. But it does feel like it's overshadowed by a lot of the nonsense that's thrown in here with the nostalgia stuff and some of the multiverse stuff, to the point where the third act of this movie, certain things are introduced really quickly that you really don't care about, and then more things start happening where, like I was saying before, you just become confused, and the whole entire film feels like a jumbled mess. And then there's a moment towards the end of the film where I feel like there's a lot of resolution with the overall story and Barry as a character, but there's something they throw in there that I think completely undermines everything that just happened in the film. And yeah, I kind of get what they're doing because there is a funny joke that's thrown in there. And honestly, with this movie, there's just so much nonsense thrown in here. And like I was saying at the beginning of the video, the DC Cinematic Universe has so much that just doesn't make sense right now because they're going to do a reset. So maybe they're just like, we don't care, just throw it in there. But the decision that Barry makes and the overall story, it feels like it just undermined the whole entire film. And because of that, this experience does feel like a mixed bag and somewhat hollow. I had fun with the film. There were moments where I'm like, yeah, this is an enjoyable time. But like I was saying before, definitely manage your expectations because this isn't the greatest thing you'll ever see. It's just okay. I'm going to give The Flash 6.5 Davy Daves. There are a lot of DC fans at my screening, and they were getting very excited for some of the moments. It does feel like a giant love letter to DC fans, so if you are a big DC fan, I think you really will enjoy the film. I was just a little disappointed. I guess it wasn't totally for me. So, The Flash. Let me know what you guys thought of it once you've seen it. I'm curious to hear, and thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Dave Dave's Takes.